We'll start with the part where Achilles has just been cremated. And you noticed, Camilla, that there's a reference here again to the immortalizing clothes. Right. So you can tell that the chemistry is going to lead to something good in this ritual process of cremation, even though things aren't spelled out beyond that. Or are they? Actually, I think they are spelled out a little bit more, and that's what we're going to talk about here in part 2. So let's look at how there's a multitude of Achaean heroes, lines 68 to 69, who are dancing in their armor. This is a special kind of warrior dance, which in myth ritual ways of thinking produces ignition. But let's leave that for the time being. Anyway, there they are dancing in their armor around the funeral pyre as you were burning. Don't you just love narratives where instead of he was burning, it's you were burning? This makes it so much more immediate. And we can almost forget it's the psyche of Agamemnon that's telling this story. It's almost as if suddenly the hero is being addressed in the other world, saying, you were burning. Mm-hmm. And that happens in oral epic traditions. There are wonderful books written about it, like a book by Dwight Reynolds on precisely that, where even in Homeric narrative, you can suddenly switch from third person to second person. In the Iliad, there are moments relating to Patroklos when instead of Patroklos did this and that, you, Patroklos, did this and that. And that really brings it.
I was going to say it feels more personal.
Totally, it's personalizing. And so here, if we can allow ourselves to forget that it's Agamemnon's psyche talking to Achilles' psyche, this is getting very, very dramatic for its own sake. It's just beautiful stuff. So anyway, there you were, burning. And can you imagine all the regalia where foot soldiers and charioteers are all singing and dancing? Now, I don't know how exactly you sing and dance with chariots, but chariots are very ceremonial. And you remember that Sappho song 16, where this female voice says, some say that there's nothing more beautiful in the whole wide world than a massing of chariot warriors, or of foot soldiers, or a fleet of ships. But I say, what's even more beautiful and sensual than that is what one loves. Well, that's Sappho for you, Sappho 16. But you can see from this kind of narration just how spectacular and alluring and charismatic this whole scene is. This is a spectacle.
There's quite a mass of people here right now,
yes,
singing and dancing.
Yes, yes, and so you can almost imagine it cinematically.
Yes.
If I were a filmmaker, I would focus on something like this as a cast of thousands scene, so to speak. And then now the excitement of the climax of the spectacle starts dying down, just as the flames of Hephaestus, the fire god, are now dying down. You're consumed, and then there are his white bones that are gathered, and they're going to be put in a very special place, as we'll see. Lines 73 to 74, Thetis puts the white bones into a golden amphora. And you say, wait a minute, what is a golden amphora? And look who gave Thetis the golden amphora. It's Dionysus. And Dionysus is a specialist god in bringing the dead back to life. And in fact, we know from other traditions that it's precisely that final ritual act of having the bones of Achilles inside a golden amphora that will regenerate him from death back to life.
So we've been building up to this.
Yes,
moment.
exactly. And then this is a Homeric touch that's typical of the Iliad. We're seeing that these bones of Achilles are mixed together now, line 77, with the bones of Patroklos, but not with the bones of another favorite near and dear warrior, line 78, Antilochus, whom Achilles, likes second best after Patroklos. And I've studied this particular scene quite a bit in the book that I produced called Homer the Pre-Classic, where I think I can prove that this reference actually can be visualized by people in, the 6th century as an indication of the landscape of the Scamander plain in the region of Troy, which was, by the time I'm indicating, late 6th century BCE, almost like a theme park. I don't want to say a Disney World kind of theme park, but a theme park where pilgrims from all over the Greek-speaking world would come, and they'd say, look, there's the sema, there's the tomb of Achilles, and inside there are not only Achilles' bones, but Patroklus' bones. And look, there's a smaller sema, and that's Antilochus. And so that's what I've studied in this book, Homer the Pre-Classic, because there are lots of versions about this. And in fact, some of the versions conflict with each other. As usual, myths are very politicized. But there it is. Now, aren't you going to ask me if their bones are still inside these tumulus-like structures that are markers on the plain of Scamander in the region of Troy, then how can these heroes, be at the same time in a beautiful place of afterlife, which looks like a garden? How can they be simultaneously in both places? No problem.
I was wondering,
No problem.
How can they do that?
Well, that's the ideology of hero cult, is that you can simultaneously imagine somebody's corpse being in a very familiar place, and everybody feels very connected to the fact that the corpse is there, anchored in good old Mother Earth. But at the same time, they are sniffing flowers in a beautiful garden-like setting in a place and a time beyond ours. And that's how you can get simultaneity. And in hero cults, this happens all the time. And you say, how can it be possible? Well, it's a mystery, and you have to be initiated into it. And there are all sorts of ways of formulating this kind of thing so that you can accept it.
I see. I suppose it's important that some part of the body, the bones, needs to be in this world.
That's
for the people still in this world.
I love the way you said that, and that's the anchor. And in fact, you know, what you just said can be tied with the fact that when you sacrifice an animal and you eat all the animal's meat, but it's still a very sacred procedure, you still give the bones in that case to the gods. So it is a matter of having different ingredients tagged in different ways so that you can have a cosmic vision.
I see.